All right, today we're going to talk about Chapter 9, Real Estate Brokerage, and here's where the fun stuff starts coming in. You've now taken Test 1. It's by far, I think, the hardest test. Test 2 people love because this is the math test. This is where 90% of the math that we will do will come into this section, all right? So people like this one as well. Chapter 29 starts talking about brokerages, the company, what a brokerage is, small, large, and how a managing broker operates their brokerage. Remember, it's a business. My brokerage is a business. So what we're going to talk about today is what is the fundamentals of how brokerages operate and how they deal with their license and the license law applies to them. We're going to talk about antitrust rules that we have to be very careful of when between the brokerages and some of the technology, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about is the NAR did a study, and less than 24% of all licensed people work in a brokerage with more than 10 agents. Yeah. So those big box stores that you see, like the big Remaxes and the Keller Williams and all that, account for less than 24% of all licensed people. So what that tells you is there is a ton of small brokerages, 10 or less. Mine happens to have like 17, which is about 7 too many for me, but that's, no. How many does Trish have? 3.5. That's about common, 3, 4, 5 people. It's becoming more, and they're called boutique shops. That has become the new cliche now, is I work at a boutique shop, not big box, all right? There's nothing wrong with either one of them, but they are just different in how they operate. All 50 states, including Canada and the District of Columbia, have a license required. What's the word? License. There is license required in all 50 states to sell real estate. So we operate under license law. Now, we just went over the license law, so you understand it. Let's talk a little bit about the license law in general. License law serves for 4 purposes. License law defines in all states what's the requirement to get a license. In Indiana, it's 90-hour class. New York's like 124. Montana's like 27. That's 1 hour for every person that lives in the state. All right? So it establishes the requirements. Got to be 18, can't have a criminal record, got to go to 90 hours of class, got to pass the state exam. That's what Indiana's commission has determined our license law is. Other states have different requirements. License law, as you remember, also defines what activities are required. And I've told you, I can't say them slow, but I can say them fast. Buy, sell, trade, lease, exchange, manage, list, rent, consult, refer. If you do any of those in Indiana, you have to have a license. Buy, sell, trade, lease, exchange, which is a 1031, I can't even do them slow. Consult, refer, all of those require a license. That's what our law says. The third thing license law does is it talks about the conduct in which you will act once you become a professional. We actually have the NAR's Code of Ethics rules that we will follow. Your broker will go over those with you when you get to your company. And if you remember, we briefly touched on them. There's 17 of them, all right? And then the last thing they're going to talk about in license law, it describes what they're going to do to you if you violate license law. And we talked about the disciplinary sanctions. They can take your license, they can suspend it, they can put you on probation. So that's what license law deals with in general. Every state has a real estate commission. They fall under these 4 things, and they determine those. And we covered all of that with Indiana. So like it's hours for us. Here's what they can do to you. Some other state may do something completely different, like California has different license law. Washington State has different license law, all right? So if you decide you want to practice in another state or get a second license, you have to remember, oh, I'm in Florida, I got to deal with these laws where it says I got to do this. I can't think of one right offhand, but like in some states, you guys remember limited agency? What's limited agency? You're working with the buyer and the seller. What's the last part of that statement? On the same deal. It's required. You work with the buyer and the seller on the same deal. Some states, it's illegal to do that. They don't allow limited agency because there could be a conflict, which we covered, remember? So some states, real estate commission has said, okay, in order to avoid that, we just won't allow that to happen. Indiana is not one of those. We are allowed to have limited agency. Some states don't. Each state has their own authority to do that. And like I said, in Indiana, there's the list: buy, sell, trade, lease, exchange, manage, list, rent, consult. That's what is required for us to have. Now, when I create a brokerage is a business. And because of that, my business can take the form of any other business. My brokerage company is no different than Walmart. Maybe a couple zeros on the end. But basically, I still have an incorporation. I still got business entity reports to file. I still pay business taxes. So it's no different. The only difference is my business deals with real estate. Their business deals with widgets or whatever they sell. So we can be franchised, like RE/MAX's. You can be independent, like the Modulin Group. You can have one office, like you guys have one office. I was going to say me, but I actually have two offices. You can be multi-office, like Tucker. So that's all one brokerage. They've just got a bunch of carpenters, another example. One company, bunch of offices. You can have specialized people. There's a company out there called Whitetail Properties. All they specialize in is hunting land. There used to be a guy named, well, he's still out there, Scott Langdon. Only does land. There's a guy in Martinsville who goes by the name The Land of Man. That's all he sells is farmland to other farmers and brokers that. You could be commercial, or you could be a general operator. Hey, I'll do condo, I'll sell land, I'll sell any of that. So your business can be set up to do just like any other business. You just have to understand that the day-to-day activity for my business is real estate, and the day-to-day for Walmart is widgets, okay? Now, there's a bunch of terms there on page 134 that I want to make sure we get straight, because the book, in their infinite wisdom, bounces back and forth between certain things, and I want you to understand. The relationship that is created between me as a managing broker and you as a broker is that of an independent contractor. In the book, they use the term sales associate sometimes, that they will call you that so that they try and distinguish. But you guys will be a broker, and I will be a managing broker. That's how we set it out. In the book, they use the word employing broker. That's our managing broker. They call sales associate, that would be our broker, okay? When you come to work for a company, you will sign what is called an independent contractor agreement. This is what will tie you to me, all right? The IRS rules actually call this term, and it's not in your book, but please write, a statutory non-employee. Statutory non-employee. Statutory non-employee. In the IRS code, there is a definition for that. It calls out three specific people. One of those three is a real estate agent. So by definition, even according to the IRS, you are what we call a statutory non-employee. You are not an employee. You're a contractor. All right? So there are different rules for different people. Now in the book on page 134, they have got a word, it says the managing broker is described as the supervising broker and responsible for the supervision of real estate professionals who act on the brokerage. That's our managing broker. So I am the managing broker for my company. I'm the one that was responsible for them. The word that I hate to use, but it's the easiest to understand, I'm the boss. All right? That implies employees, so I don't want you to get confused, but that's easy to see. You guys understand there's only one boss in every company. Walmart has one boss. All the stores may have a manager that sits in it, but there's only one. All right? Same thing with me. I've got two shops. I got one in Bloomington, one in Greenwood. I'm the only managing broker for our company. I have another broker sitting in that office who is called the branch manager. She manages those people, the day-to-day. I'm still responsible. If one of those makes a mistake down there, I'm still on the hook because I'm the managing broker. All right? So there are a couple differences between what's called an employee and a contractor. There are two types of workers in the world. There are W-2 workers and there are 1099 workers. A W-2 employee has a job. You guys know what a job is? Stands for? J-O-B, just over broke. All right? So if you have a job, think of that. They give you the W-2 at the end of the year that you fill your taxes out with. If you are a W-2 employee, you work under a system. The system says, be here tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Wear your name tag with the little sign. You have a lunch break at noon. You get off at 5. I dictate as the boss your system that you work under. That's a W-2 employee. All right? For that control, I will take taxes out. I will pay half your FICA and stuff like that. So if anybody has a job, that's what you're doing. You are trading your hours for money. But you work under a system. McDonald's has one system. If you're an accountant, that has a different system. But literally, they can tell you, you work 9 to 5 tomorrow. You get 2 weeks vacation. Here they are. Here's how you wear your hat, where you put your name tag, all that kind of stuff. The other type of worker is called a 1099 or a contractor. And literally, the only thing is they are outcome-based. I cannot dictate to you that you must be in my office tomorrow at 9 o'clock and wear the Modulin Group shirt and do that. No, you are not a W-2 employee of mine. You are a contractor. Therefore, all I can dictate is, Holly, how many houses are you going to sell this year? 12? Okay. If you sell 12, I'm cool with that. I cannot dictate, did you sell them all in January? Did you do them all on third shift? Did you sell all of them to Hell's Angel bikers? I can't tell you how to do it. I can only dictate your outcome. If you told me you're going to sell 12 and you do 1, we might have a discussion then, because the outcome is not what we predicted. But if you came in every day wearing a AC/DC t-shirt instead of the Modulin Group, I can't tell you that's wrong, because you do not work under a system. all right? And for that, you get no benefits. I don't pay your health care. I don't pay your auto payment. I don't pay any of your car insurance. I don't give you paid vacation. And I also don't take out any taxes for you. You earn $3,000, I give you $3,000. At the end of the year, it is up to you to do your own taxes. All I give you at the end of the year is a 1099 that says, you know, Tiffany made 28 grand with me, and I declare that on my taxes that I paid Tiffany $28,000, so they're not expecting me to pay taxes on that because I earned 30, gave you 28, so all I had was 2. That's what I pay my taxes on. Every agent underneath me then files your own taxes, and whatever the number I gave you, that's what you claim as your income. Of course, then you get to do all your own. Well, I bought business cards, and I bought this, and I, had signs and my dues. So those all come out of your 28 grand to get your net income. So you are operating your own little business underneath of me, right? The answer is yes. The question was, can I fire somebody? Technically, fire is a word that goes with employee. But I can disassociate and get rid and cancel your contract, yes. If they're not producing, yes, I can do that. This is another one of those black and white gray area. Black and white is words like hire, employee, fire should never come out of my mouth because that implies a W-2 worker. You are a contractor of mine, and we agree to work together, and then we disassociate. But all the time people say, oh, I just got hired a carpenter, or I'm going to go hire me a new agent. So we say it, but the reality is I don't hire or fire anybody. Technically, those are W-2 words. I have a new associate that's come on board, and we signed an independent contractor agreement that is mutually beneficial to both of us. Or I let go a contractor today. But yes, and I've done that. And there have been plenty that have left me. So it happens. Where are we at? On the bottom of page 135, there talks about how you get to be an independent contractor, those bullet points. The Internal Revenue Code has 3 requirements to be a sales associate. All right? So for you to truly be one of my independent contractors, here's what you have to have. One is you have to have a valid real estate license. Does anybody in here have a valid real estate license? No, that's what you're getting, because you want to be that contractor. So you are going through the license law requirements, which says you got to go to school so that you can fill out bullet point number 1. Have to have a valid real estate license. You have to work under an independent contractor with me. So we have to have a signed agreement between Dusty and me that says that I will be responsible for. In that agreement, it lays out all of the things that we agree on. My independent contractor agreement says things like, you abide by all the state and federal rules. You abide by my board's rules. You abide by the NAR's Code of Ethics. You work diligently to secure sales. My side says, I will abide by the laws. I will do this. If you secure a sale, I will pay you the agreed upon portion. And then somewhere in that contractor agreement, you choose a compensation plan, which we're getting ready to get into, on how you want paid. All right? Then the third thing says, in order to be an independent contractor, 90% of your income from me has to be in the form of contractor work. Let me rephrase that in a different manner. Up to 10% of your work for me, I can actually treat you like an employee. And I have done that with several of my agents. I might say, hey, Brittany, I got a database that needs to be typed in. Are you willing to make a couple extra bucks? I'll pay you $10 an hour. Oh yeah, I've got nothing to do Friday. I'll come in and work. And okay, be here at 9. You're done at 5. Go to lunch, and I'll pay you $100 to do that job. At the end of the year, as long as no more than 10% of the money I have paid her comes from that, she's still an independent contractor. All right? Everybody get what I'm saying? If I paid her that $100 and let's say she never closed a house throughout the rest of the year, so all of her income from me was based on that one job she did, she's now an employee. I have to go back and reclassify her, take taxes out, and do all of that. Because 90% of her annual income has to come from independent contractor activities for her to maintain that independent contractor study or status. That's a better way of saying it. Any questions on that?